everything. All that and more you'll see. Just stay right here with me. Love is not fiction, but this time the story's about a king and a queen will pretend to be with paper crowns. With paper crowns. With paper crowns. With paper crowns. You don't wanna leave. I'm the one to keep. Unknown enemies out of our fortress with paper crowns. Take what you want from me. I'll give you everything. All that and more you'll see. Just stay right here with me. Love is not fiction, but this time the story's about a king and a queen will pretend to be with paper crowns. With paper crowns. With paper crowns. With paper crowns. A king and a queen will pretend to be with paper crowns.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us with the Equitable Gamer. I'm Balit or Coop, either way works, and I'm joined with Kevin, or KP as we like to call him. Give me 1 second. Let me pop him up onto the screen.
Where'd I go?
Yeah, where'd he go? Where did this man go? Where did this man go? Let's see. Where are you? You are on Discord. There you are. I gotta fix your screen a little bit, but at least I can see you. Alright. I know where you went. How are we all doing tonight? I'm really excited about tonight. We get an opportunity to talk to KP about basically how he came up, how he got into the game design field, where he started, how he got there, where he's at right now. So obviously,
Technical difficulties.
What is it? There you are. See, I know I can figure it out eventually. There's this pretty face. Hey, what's up, Kelly Golden? How you doing tonight? Thanks for joining us.
That's my wife.
Hey, Kelly. You're my wife. Nothing like good support, right?
Always.
Happy to have friends and fam. By all means, let us know how your day is going. My day actually went really good. I'm feeling pretty good, pretty loose. Put my smell good on. I know you can't smell me, but I can smell myself.
Smell you
great
through the internet.
Exactly. One day they'll invent that. I don't know if it's gonna be a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll figure that out eventually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. It's another day. It's another stream. It's our second one. We got some pretty good feedback on the last one. Definitely some good energy, some happy faces, some happy people. Looking forward to continuing to grow that community. If you don't know, Equitable Gamer is really about just having some, good conversations, building a community around, a lot of different hard conversations that are happening here and across the world, but as they relate to the game industry predominantly, because I have a love for equity work and gaming. So that's why I kind of started this. I wanted to figure out some community or build some community around like conversations that I'm having with people outside of this space, and find some people that I can have fun playing some games with. I happen to be very lucky that I also have KP joining me as a co-host. He works in the game industry. He's been in the industry for
a little over 10 years. Yeah, the
man's got some hours
11 in April.
Oh man, did you ever think you were going to get there?
I had no idea.
That's actually kind of a funny story. Where it starts is even like, I don't want to start there because I think we can start even further back when like in high school and interests around there. But it's actually kind of funny. Little baby KP, yeah. 1 second, let me turn on the music just a little bit. Forgot I had that like cranked. Gotta keep hype when we start up the stream,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one of the more interesting places to start is a simple conversation around kind of who you are and what you do, and then we can dive into kind of like how you got there. But like, let us know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Kevin, I go by KP, and I'm a systems designer at Airship Syndicate. And yeah, I just started there last April, but that's kind of where I'm at, and just kind of my game development has been really interesting, or at least I think so. I've changed different positions a lot of times. I've tried out a little bit of everything in the design side of things, and I'm really liking systems design right now. But yeah,
what is systems design exactly?
So it's pretty much
and sorry, not to cut you off, but recognize like just like most professions, when someone says I'm a game designer, there's a lot of facets to that. It's as if someone said like I'm a doctor. The question would then be, well, what kind of doctor? So there's a lot of there's a lot of different threads you can pull, and most people don't start off as a game designer. They usually start off in, I don't want to say a lower level, but a much more specific role, like animation or concept art or coding, things along those lines. So, but yeah, I'm not sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I am curious. What is a game designer?
So, a game designer is the person that basically makes up the set of rules that the player has to abide by within the game. Let's take something simple like Mario. The designer had to basically write a design doc for, okay, this is how the character moves. These are the enemies you'll face. What happens when you jump on top of an enemy? Okay, they die. Okay, well, there's different enemies. Well, this one doesn't die. You have to jump on him again. And then it shoots a projectile out, which is a shell. And so, it can get really granular, but a game designer is basically the person that designs out those interactions for the player.
And would you consider the game designer the person that even comes up with the concept overall, or are there like a head game designer and then a lower game designer? Like how does that conversation happen? If you're on like a massive team, or not even a massive team, but a big team.
Yeah, on like larger projects, there's usually a creative director, and that's kind of that's the go-to person for like, this is the vision, this is like, they maintain the brand and everything that goes along with it, just every sort of facet of the game, they kind of have the say on, and that's the person you kind of report to for figuring out like, okay, well, we're designing out this mission, like, is this within the bounds of the creative vision for this game? Would we be jumping the shark if we did this, or would it be too on the nose? Like, basically, that if you can't answer a question, the creative director is the person you should probably ask.
Gotcha. And then how we're just kind of like setting a tone here. Obviously, this is the main part of the conversation, but it's very interesting, right? So, but so how much control do you have in? Do you present ideas, or are you like tasked with ideas?
Yeah, it can be a number of different things. It depends on at what level you're at, because if I'm an associate game designer, I'm basically still learning and trying to fit within the pipeline, and just given tasks. So at that level, you're mostly receiving tasks, but they'll have brainstorming sessions and stuff like that where you can sort of pitch ideas and stuff like that. It kind of varies between studios, so I just kind of know from my experience, at High Res and Gearbox and now Airship, kind of how that goes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Were you? Sorry, I was to say, were you going to finish that thought?
Oh yeah. So so then you get more into like the mid-level, where it's like you kind of have a little more say. You help train new hires, stuff like that, and you can pitch stuff. And usually like the leads are the kind of keepers of the team, so they'll grab all the ideas and stuff, and they're the person that'll kind of present it to the rest of the leagues and everything, and you have a producer that's making sure everything is staying on schedule, all that stuff. But it kind of trickles up, I say, with like ideas and stuff, and basically get to the lead, and then they're the ones that kind of approve or green light, and then they kind of go and check with the other disciplines and make a decision, especially if it's on a large team. But if you're on an indie team, you can, if you have control over a certain section of the game, it's really just kind of up to your discretion. So if you're working on a collaborative team, then you probably should bring it up with them. But yeah.
Have you felt like being Black in that space has been obviously like different perspectives. We'll get into that as well, but I'm just curious, like, given the level that you're at, are there a lot of people that look like you kind of at that level? Are you looking to make a jump? Do you feel like you have, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's really rare, honestly. At least throughout my career. There's only ever been a handful of Black people at the studio. And I think even the studio I'm at now, I'm the only one, maybe two.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So it's, it's really difficult sometimes, because it's like, I don't really see anyone that looks like me, around the studio, and like, especially in those like decision-making positions. It's really interesting. And so it's like, I want to also make decisions. I think, I'm working on these games, and it's like, I get so excited about things, and having that, I guess, the freedom to be able to pitch ideas and then have them actually go somewhere, I think is really nice. And I haven't seen a whole lot of that up until recently. But
you're one of the rare few that's in the room. And when we talk about being in the room, we talk about what's up, Matt? Thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Always love the love.
Hey, what's
up? No, I was saying, being in the room, when we talk about the idea of being in the room, when decisions are being made,
Yeah.
Right? We think about like the Pepsi commercial with Kendall Jenner, I think it was, or like when something is done and it's pushed out to the globally, pushed out to a lot of people, right? And the Black community as a whole goes, who thought that was a good idea?
What was that?
Right. We always say, wasn't there someone like us in that room to question what was being, what everyone thought was, this was an amazing idea, you know? So when I think about what you're talking about, KP, is you're in a position, associate or not, but you're kind of, you're in a room where decisions are being made and your perspective can hit the table. And you don't have to answer this right now because I kind of want to roll into another thought, but the question then becomes, do you feel heard, right? Or do you feel welcome at the table? Like, you can be at the table, but you may not feel welcome there. Or you may not feel able to speak up when something comes across your table, which is the thought I wanted to roll into. The other day, you talked about the fact around, was it Barrett or Garrett from Final Fantasy VII?
Oh, Barrett.
Barrett.
Yeah.
So we can think about game developing companies. They're predominantly, they're either white men or most likely Asian men. So you get a lot of, obviously, a lot of games coming out of Japan, Korea now, and even China, and they obviously have, they're a much more homogenous society. So when they develop games, they're mostly, honestly, they're almost American. It's kind of crazy when you think about a lot like the anime and things like that. They're very Americanized, right? But
it's like a caricature, right? Like, you know, you have to actually like sit down with those people and understand, like, you know, how they work. And it's only getting your references from, like, you know, television and pop culture and stuff like that is again,
I always like to talk about the fact, well, we're a diaspora, which means Black people come from a lot of different places, right? So you can't just be like, oh, you're Black, you know exactly what this other Black person is thinking. It's like, no, like, they're from Africa, I'm from the Caribbean, we have completely different perspectives, right? So there's that. And then obviously when you're developing, if you don't have those people in the, because that's the thing, like, the other conversation here is, okay, you're one of a few in the room, and your perspective is different from the other Black person's perspective, right? So, and that's what I'm interested in getting into a little bit with your upbringing, right? You had a different upbringing than, say, somebody like my wife, right? You lived in the same city, completely different, like, family dynamics, completely different schooling, all those things. So you're one person in the room, but you cannot speak for every Black person,
right?
So that's when we talk about diversity in the space, it's not just, oh, we have one Black person, one Asian person, one Indian person, one this, one that, one the other. It's like, you have to really meld and and of course the argument always comes up, well, the US population is only 17% Black, so should we have 17% of Black people in our company? No, you should have an equal spread. That's equity. That's like that's not equity, but that's the dream. Right. Is you have like an even spread, and that way the conversations can, anyway. Huge conversation, obviously, and it's centered around, you know, how KP got into this in the first place. So so now that we've learned a little bit about what game designer does, right, and KP's going to talk about like what he started with, because we said most people don't start with game designer. That's like it's a later in life kind of thing. Or I have wealth, I'm going to design a game and hire a bunch of people. Like, you know, I'm the game designer because I decided it, because I can afford it, right? So I'm going to just kind of start off with you. So what I would say, because let's just say I did research, right? Typically, if I had someone come on and I'm doing this, I would do research on them to kind of ask them some more pointed questions. I know you know, we've spent a lot of time together. We've been friends for a long time. So I have a little bit of detail, but obviously I don't have a ton. So really one of the things that I wanted to kind of start with, to get you way back to when you were a kid growing up and stuff like that, is you don't fit the stereotypical black boy trope, right? Growing up in, I don't know. That's the thing, like, is people will look at, like, and I'll show you some imagery because I brought up that picture that I took of you in college, you know, with the,
Oh yeah.
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 When people see you, there's a perception, right? But that's not necessarily how you grew up. That's not necessarily the things that you were interested in, right? That's not the things that you had opportunities for. So I'm kind of curious, what was it like, kind of, what were you interested in when you were growing up in, and how did you get into even like the tech space per se?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And I have a funny story about just kind of that point. But I'll talk about that once I get to it in the story. Because it kind of comes up a lot, especially. Yeah, let me just go ahead and start, but I'll bring it up.
Make it happen.
But yeah, I got my start in video games really, really early. When I can't even remember how long ago it was, but basically, the first console we had was the Atari 2600. I remember watching my brother and my dad play, and I would just I remember they were playing. I think I saw ET on there at some point, but I remember they just would play this like boxing game all the time. And I always wanted to play, but I was a little baby, so but yeah. Also, I remember I think I had to have been like 5 or 6 or something like that. I remember getting my dad had gotten like an Apple II or something like that, large like floppy disks. And I just remember like typing stuff in the DOS. I remember my brother, he would like set the games up and everything, and it was like really elementary school like stuff. The first time I actually got to play a console was Nintendo. My brother actually handed me the controller upside down, so I learned how to play Contra like backwards, basically. Like I had like the backwards.
Did he do it on purpose? Like you just didn't?
No, I don't think he did it on purpose. He just handed me the controller, and I was
you were
like,
okay, cool.
Yeah, it is so wild how like the brain works, because it's like it felt like natural to me until he was like, no, like flip it around. And I was playing with it for like that for a while too.
I was gonna say, did you have to relearn?
Well, no, it's just like I feel like your brain is so like spongy at that point.
At that point, you're like, whatever, I'll figure it out. So that's cool. So you had a lot of exposure to those systems and those games. So like even
just like
what I'll say, like even like I was gonna say, even like your dad having a computer, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. I don't think people really understand like the level of disparity really that can showcase even within the Black community. Like KP's family had access to technology that a lot of people didn't. And Contra for the win. I'm pretty sure Matt and I used to jam that game too on the SNES. That's my favorite console, by the way. So yeah. But no, keep going.
Yeah. So kind of let's cut to like elementary school, because like being exposed to technology so early, I was all about it, and I just wanted to like figure out how it worked. And so like anytime I would get a chance to be on a computer, I would take it. I remember in elementary school, I went to this place called Hess Elementary, and their mascot was the bear, and they had these bear bucks, and you would give them for just being good, like behaving like not a double child, doing certain assignments, stuff like that. And so you get these bear bucks, and then I remember it was like one year they opened up the computer lab. So if you didn't have any work to do, or if it was like break time or something, you could spend your bear bucks to get on the computer to play like Oregon Trail or like Math Muncher or something like that. And so I would just like stack these bear bucks up, and then I would just be like, yep, it's time. Like either I'm doing that, or you could spend it on like the book fair. So like I was getting Goosebump books, stuff like that. But early on, like I was just always trying to be on the computer. Like I remember yeah, playing on that Apple II for a while, and then there was like a
You guys
no,
are
actually,
hearing a common trend here, right?
it was like
Access.
a Packard. Yeah, seriously, it was I remember it was an old like Packard Bell computer, and I remember my brother he had the floppy disk for like Doom and like Hexen and stuff like that, and so like we'd play that all the time. What else? Oh, I can't remember the name of that game. It's a point and click, but yeah.
Is it Load Runner?
Not, I did play that,
Yeah,
and Duke
I played that
Nukem.
in high school.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, no,
But,
like
yeah.
crazy, like crazy memories, man. But yeah, like everything you're talking about is super dope. Like it's not frustrating to hear, because like I'm really happy for you. I'm proud and happy of what you were able to access and what you were able to do with that, right? So it's just like it's even in the moment of recognizing like just being what is it, exposed to those things, right? You saw something, and you know what? I'm gonna stop talking, because I think you can, like, from what I know of your story, like you just keep kind of ramping that up. So.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, having exposure to that technology at an early age, like I was just like fascinated by it. So yeah, that kind of spun into, you know, going into middle school. We had like the Packard Bell. I remember at some point, it was in the middle of middle school or something like that, like 7th or 8th grade. I remember going into Circuit City with my mom, and she bought this shiny new Gateway computer. And at the time, like, you know, I'm just like, I don't think about like how much money that would have been, right. Like back in that time, and like how much my mom had to work to like be able to get this for us. And same thing with my dad, you know, getting like the Atari and the Apple and everything. Like, you know, they sacrificed a lot just so we could have a good education and, you know, exposure to this technology. And so, like, especially in hindsight, I'm just like, damn, like they really was, you know, just doing everything for us. And yeah, I can't thank them enough. But yeah, so I remember getting the Gateway computer, and yeah, I think that was my first time being exposed to like online multiplayer games, because I remember my friend Kendall, he also got in a computer, and so we would play like Battle.net games. So it'd be like Diablo,
right?
Yeah, World of Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, Warcraft 2, I think was my introduction into it. And yeah, we would play these games, would be on AOL, all of that stuff. And then I learned about Counter-Strike. And so I was like, oh.
And that's what changed your whole world.
This is my shit. I was like, yeah.
I'm here to clip heads.
Yep. So yeah, that was my first kind of exposure to like especially voice chat in online games and everything. And that was really interesting, because yeah, it's like, oh, we can like actually communicate like we were on the phone, but like in this game. And then, you know, last time we were talking about Counter-Strike is, yeah, I would get on, they'd hear my voice and they'd be like, oh, are you black? And it's just like, so
this is where you got your first, your first like indication of what anonymity does to people on the internet.
Yeah, and so that's my tempering, like just being exposed to
this
like,
is high school?
This is middle to high school. So,
oh, okay, so this is still like middle. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, 7th or 8th grade, and then going into high school, and then so yeah, once I got into high school, man, it was wild. Like I kind of was just a terrible student for a while. Like I was doing well in like freshman year, and then I don't know what happened, like puberty, just being generally terrible. But yeah, so we had that computer, and I got into, you know, more games, started branching out. Counter-Strike was still taking off. I actually was playing Counter-Strike a lot. I remember getting on MIRC, if anybody remembers what that is.
I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah, and that's where I would get into scrimmages and stuff like that. And I kind of like, it was kind of like trying to go esports before like esports like blew up, because, you know, they would have these players that were just really good, and they had this cyber athlete league. And that was what I was like participating in. So they had a bunch of different divisions.
So how are you navigating the tough conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are you navigating the Black Savannah native Kevin, high school student at a more affluent public school, in regards to, like, because you went to the school where the more affluent public school white kids went to. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like a mix of those things.
It was so, like, a mix in the area.
And of course that would affect you. I went to an affluent white private school, right? And that had a significant effect on me. I don't speak in a dialect, for instance. It was like basically educated out of me, right? You know, so like that whole. So I'm wondering, like, how did that affect things that you were interested in doing? It's hard, because for me, like, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, like, I was ostracized for being quote unquote white. And that's kind of like what I had to deal with, right? I don't know what you had to deal with from your perspective. And then I'm curious how that relates to your online kind of getting out of the real world. You kind of understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. Like, I only had like a couple of friends that I actually like played games with online, and it was I didn't really belong to any group. It was just kind of like I was kind of just floating around. Like, I didn't really engage in a whole lot of stuff aside from, like, I did play sports. Because that was kind of my dad and my brother's legacy, you know. They I mean, our family is full of athletes, and so, like, I did play sports, and I kind of got that exposure through that. But I wasn't by any means like popular or anything. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like, I like to do what I like to do. You know, I would wake up in the morning, watch, you know, DBZ and all that stuff, and Sailor Moon, all that stuff. Just anime in the morning before I go to Pokemon. And then go to school, all that stuff.
You're literally living in that fringe we were talking about the other day, kind of not 100% sure how you fit into the Black community dynamic, and understanding that you're different from the white community or Asian community dynamic. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, did you feel like the gaming was kind of your anonymity?
Yeah, that's kind of what I spent the most time on. And I know my mom, like, hated the computer for that reason, because, like, as soon as I get home, like, I would do my homework sometimes.
Well, funny, when you get to it, funny story when you end up deciding how to go to college. So
yeah.
But don't get there yet. Don't get there yet.
Yeah, I would. So I would get home, and then I would either get on Counter-Strike, or I would hit Kindle up and be like trying to play. Well, he played that, Diablo, Warcraft, just all the staples. Yeah. And I just kind of would just be online like all the time, and it was that was my escape. Like, I didn't really do a whole lot. Like, I mean, I ran around outside sometimes. I would be, you know, going to practice sometimes, but it was really like, that was what I was focused on. So
early on in your life, in this space, and so early on in this internet age, did you feel like you had community there?
Not really.
Okay.
Just because, like, I would get on these games and stuff, and, you know, usually on voice chat, you're met with like the edgelords, like, you know, these kids that are, you know, just trying to get a rise out of you, you know, racial slurs, all that stuff. And so it's just like, it was hard to kind of find that community, because, you know, the people are asking, like, oh, it was like, I didn't even know Black people had computers. Like, you know what?
Like, I have to go back and have that conversation, like, and just mention this. When I said that's how you found your anonymity, I failed to recognize that even online, like, people don't have anonymity because you sound. It's the craziest thing. Like when you hear a voice. Go ahead.
That's funny because like that story. Well, actually, no. I'll talk about that later. But it's like, were you about to say you sound black?
Yeah, of course.
So that's another thing I feel like is weird because it's like, you know, I don't have like a southern drawl.
Right. You don't speak in
anything
Ebonics.
like
You don't really have like that canter.
But you know,
Hey, what's up, zombie? Thanks for joining.
You can code switch, right? Like,
yeah.
At any point, because it's like, okay, when I go back to Savannah, you know, that's how we talk there.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like the same thing if you were to go back to the island, you know, like it comes up real quick. All you got to do is spend a couple of days there, and it's like, okay. But you know, when I'm talking to people, and you know, they're like, oh, you don't sound, or you sound white.
Right, I got you.
I've gotten both comments, like, and it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. It frustrates me just because it's like I'm talking like how I know how to talk.
Right. You're not even allowed to be anonymous.
Yeah, but it just like for some reason I don't know how they like sniff it out. They're just like, oh man, like I could tell this is just a black person. To be completely
honest, Kev, like there's vernacular you'll use on occasion where I'm like, you are definitely a black man. Like, because you just wouldn't use, because like it's just not a natural vernacular for a typical white person to use unless they really grow up in that space. Because there's a few people I can think of that grew up in the Virgin Islands that are very black adjacent, which isn't even a word, isn't even a thing, right? That's not a thing that exists. But like they were so ingrained in the culture, and their parents made sure that like they went to public school and they were brought up with the culture of the Virgin Islands. That when you see them versus when you speak to them, you wouldn't know. Right. So like even when you look at them, you're like, are you a Frenchie? And I have to figure out if that's actually even derogatory. I'm not even 100%, like, because Frenchies call themselves Frenchie, but like they're a group in the Virgin Islands that have been so ingrained within the Virgin Islands culture. They come from European ancestry, so they're typically Caucasian, but they're very ingrained within like that Virgin Islands vernacular. So you look at them and you're like, oh wait, are you just mixed? Like I mean, shit, like people sometimes, some people think I'm white, which is ludicrous to me, right? When you look at me, like the features. So yeah, I mean, this really comes back to, you know, us having this conversation around high school and how you kind of got into the space of online gaming. I was asking about community. You said it's not technically there. You didn't. It sounds like you really felt like a loner, and you were kind of rolling that way.
Yeah, a little. I guess I like.
I mean, you had your unit.
Yeah, it was like, you know, people I would talk to on the regular, but it's like just that small group. It's not like. Like I said, I wasn't like popular in school or anything, but I wasn't like a recluse. Like I would go out to things like certain events and all that stuff too. But really like my priority was like, okay, with my like small circle of friends, I'm getting online and I'm doing whatever, whether it's playing games. I like later in high school, I sort of started like. I started learning about like hacking and stuff like that. So I was trying to like hack games because like it was just something to do. And I was just like, all right, well, you know, I started, and that's how I learned like hex. I was like,
that was going to be really my next big question is like, how did you, so as we start thinking about you getting into gaming, right? How did you start formalizing a thought around, okay, I really like gaming. It's something that's bringing me joy and is allowing me to be who I am, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did you start thinking about, obviously, well, not obviously to the audience, but we know obviously that you didn't even know it was like a job, right? Yeah. So how were you kind of taking, hey, I have a love for this thing. What can I do with my life? Obviously you're a high school student, so there's caveats to that, like I don't know what I want to fucking do and blah blah blah. Go ahead.
I had no idea. I just knew that like I just love technology, and that was like so yeah, like I started learning how to hack and stuff like that. I was like burning like CDs and stuff like that. I was just learning all these like programs and everything through it. And that really kind of got me into like, all right, like trying to build a computer.
Okay.
And so I remember there was this like LAN center that opened up. It was called like Surf Tech Computers back in Savannah. And so I remember going over there and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, I want to spend all my time here. Like, and like they would sell computers, they built them. And I just pretty much would just go hang out there. Like when I had free time, I would just go hang out, learn. I got to know the owners and everything. And because I wanted to work there, I was just like, hey, I was like, yeah, like, please give me a job. I want to be around computers. and like, they told me no, like several times. And I was just like, all right, well, next time, like, and they eventually like kind of hired me. It was like, pretty much I was like an apprentice to Noel, who was one of the owners. And he would go and do networking at different businesses and stuff like that. And so I learned how to like make like Cat 4 cables and stuff like that, just to run through walls, all of that stuff. And then he taught me how to build a computer. So he went through the entire process, like showed me how to, you know, put the CPU in, well, mount motherboard, put the CPU in, case fan, all that stuff. And that kind of sparked it for me, because I was like, okay, like I can just straight up build a computer. And like through working there and, you know, making money, I was able to like purchase parts and all that stuff. But then to just like upgrade my gateway, because that's what I was using the whole time. And it was super old by the time I got like to the end of high school. And so I remember
so you were just parting it. Like you had the frame and you just kept reparting it. Okay.
Yep. Because like I couldn't afford a new case or anything like that. And, you know, I would be like picking parts. Like he's like, oh, I don't want this anymore. I'm just like, oh, let me have that. Like like Frankensteining these computers.
With your like 256 meg RAM.
Oh yeah. And it was just like, oh, you got like a 2 gig hard drive? What?
It's crazy.
But yeah, it was awesome just being around all that stuff and learning how to build a computer. And towards the end of high school, my gateway computer was super old. And I remember it was like around Christmas time one year.
So you're halfway through the year almost.
Yeah, and I remember going. I came home one day and the computer was gone.
This is your senior year, or junior?
Yeah, actually, I think it was my senior year. Yeah. So in my senior year, so I remember, my computer was gone, and I was just like, "What the hell? Like, where'd it go?" And my brother, like, he was like, "I don't know." Like, no one knew, and I'm just like, "Come on!" I'm like, somebody got to know. Like, we didn't get robbed here. Like, yeah, that's the only thing they took. Nah, like that ain't happening. So I'm just upset, like, for a couple of days.
Oh, it's really around Christmas time. Right, gotcha.
And so like Christmas comes around, and then I see this box sitting by the tree, and it looks very computer sized. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm all excited. I open it up, and it's just like a bunch of newspapers and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
of course, your family is just trolling the shit out of you.
Yeah, my brother. So yeah, if you guys don't know, I have an older brother. He's 5 years older than me. Likes to troll me.
Yes, but he does like to troll a lot.
But so then my brother's just like laughing. He puts on a video, and it shows him with my computer, and he's in this Santa Claus outfit, and they're in the front of the land.
I remember you telling me this story. No, I forgot
and
about it.
And he has a bat, and he just recorded himself just destroying my computer. And so I was just like, what? I was upset. I was just like, man, I ain't talking to nobody. I went upstairs. I was just like, all right, I'm done. I'm done talking to anybody. But he ended up gifting me a computer for basically like a graduation present.
Yeah.
And that really helped me out, because like I didn't know what I wanted to do, but yeah, this kind of goes into like, okay, my mom was like, well, you gotta start deciding like what do you want to do, and so like I had no idea what I was gonna do. I just knew that, you know, the natural thing is for you to go to school, go to high school, graduate, and then go to college. Like that was the plan, right?
So had you not been looking at like college? Like
I had,
what was
like,
your aspiration at the time?
My aspiration at the time, I was just like, okay, I know I want to do something with computers. And so I was looking at doing like, you know, computer science somewhere like the local college, like Savannah State or Armstrong or something like that. And so that was just kind of the only thing like I had in my mind. But then that all kind of changed when my mom told me about Savannah College of Art and Design. And so she told me, she was like, yeah, there was a news story about game development, and you like playing games so much, you should look into it. And like, yeah, I know she was joking at the time, but I just did a complete like stop, like, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like, all right. So yeah, like I don't know if you want to play that video from like.
I mean, I got it. We can definitely play it.
Yeah.
You queued it up.
Oh
really
yeah,
well.
that's right.
Yeah, you queued it up really well for us to play here. What I did want to just kind of touch on. Where is it? There it is.
Actually, yeah, we can
up?
save it for later because that kind of comes in.
Oh, when you want to talk about like high res and stuff. Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We can save it for a little bit later, but I did want to touch on a couple things. I think I'm just trying to. Oh, that's what it was. So obviously your family was trying to figure out like, okay, what does Kevin want to do? She mentioned this, and then you just said like, oh yeah, like, yeah, that's what I want to do. So something that I don't think a lot of people understand or recognize, like this concept of like what you'll often see in Black families is, hey, I worked hard, right? Because Black families are generally not coming from a place of wealth. They're building wealth, right? We're generations and generations and generations behind a lot of white families, right? Like if you think of like the median, right? So when you think about Kevin, when you think about your family, Kevin, like where your mom and your dad middle class, middle upper, somewhere in that, like somewhere in the thing, like you guys are good, right?
Yeah.
How much of a sacrifice was it for them to allow you to pursue this dream? Because this was early in the idea of game development as a discipline, right?
Yeah.
Outside of like coding and like the creative side, which you do talk about a bit as well. So I'm just curious, like, are you aware of what looked like or what that was? Did you ever have any conversations? How did those conversations go?
Because basically, my mom was like, yeah, you should check it out. I don't know how serious she was about
at the time
when I actually did it, because I went and applied and I didn't have a portfolio, and it's like, how are you gonna apply to a art school with no portfolio?
Right.
Like, we actually had no art teacher during my entire time in high school.
Damn.
So I did not get to do art at all, which was weird because it's like, okay, now you want to go to art school? But yeah, so after I applied, I pretty much had to write a letter, just kind of like a letter of intent, like, what do you want to do here? And so I pretty much just laid it all out. Like, I love games. I want to get into game development. I know you guys are doing a game development course, or a major, and that's what I want to do. And so I applied, and I don't know how, but I got accepted. And so I was just like, holy shit.
It happened.
This happened. And I don't know if my mom was expecting that, but like, I bet she was just like, oh, like, well, all right, now we got to figure this out.
Right.
And so,
well, just so people understand, so people do, because I do want to give a little context to this, right? So people do understand, like, SCAD is a private school, right? So, and they offer no to little scholarships, right?
Mhm.
The scholarships they offer are like minimal, to say the least. They offer they offer like one or two full rides. It's
Yeah.
and the
We
school,
get that's another topic.
yeah, that is a whole other topic. I mean, it's valuable here in the sense of
Yeah.
I'm passionate about game development companies looking harder at HBCUs, and HBCUs doing more to build up that that specialty, that focus, because they need it. And we'll get to this conversation too, but like the whole idea of we hire the best available. Well, you're not looking in all of the places you should be looking, and you're not supporting programs at schools where you can get the diversity that you need, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted a little context around the fact that like SCAD focuses a lot of their effort on international students, even though they're based in Savannah. They don't offer in-state scholarships. They don't do like any real good integration of the high school pipeline. They don't do any pipeline, I don't think, especially not with the public schools. And yeah, I like that. Like I said, that's a whole other topic, considering KP would have been like one of the perfect candidates for scholarship to go to that school. He was fortunate. And that's not to say his family didn't struggle, but he was fortunate to be able to go to this school and pursue this career.
Yeah.
Black people don't generally have the opportunity to do that. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly my mom and dad had to do to get whatever ungodly loan we got. Well, actually loans. I don't know what they had to do, what they had to put up as collateral for that, but somehow, you know, we ended up getting tuition. So especially in hindsight now, I'm just like, damn, especially being like, I still feel like a baby adult, like like I don't have all my stuff together, but just kind of knowing now, you know, kind of all the adult things you have to do. It's not lost to me what they had to sacrifice. But
well, no matter how magical you are, you know, the fact that you are, and this is contentious, you know, but the fact that you are Black puts you at a deficit. So you're always kind of working from that point forward. And of course you can make it. There's lots of Black people that make it, right? Yeah. But in a lot of cases they didn't have the opportunity to do it easily. Yeah. So I feel really fortunate, but I got into SCAD, and that was the beginning of me like learning about game development and kind of trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. And, you know, we have foundation classes you have to do and everything. And so that's when, you know, I really started like drawing. We had 3D design, all of that stuff. And so like learning the basics, like learning Photoshop and Illustrator and all of that stuff. And then I believe like at the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year, that's when you kind of start taking your game development classes. And so they have a bunch you can choose from, and you pretty much go into a certain track. So they had within the same building, Montgomery building, they would have VFX and animation and game development. And those things all are under game development, but you know, VFX and animation, you can go do movies and stuff like that too. But so spent a lot of time in Montgomery, just learning about game development, and I kind of started focusing on level design and environment art. So because those things kind of go hand in hand, you design out the level within a game, so you're like the architect, you're the builder of these spaces that, you know, a player is running through. And then on the art side, a 3D artist, you can be an environment artist. And so they pretty much prop up these levels with, or they art these levels with props.
and just general facades and everything for the space. So those are my two interests throughout SCAD, and I really just only focused on that. We learned Unreal, and it was kind of like we were learning at the same time the professors were,
Right.
because this was really early in that game development program. So a lot of the professors had experience in different areas, but game development was, especially as like a major, like something you take classes on, was really new. And so we learned a lot along with some of our professors like about Unreal, because during my time there we started learning Unreal when it was Unreal 2. And so Unreal 3 didn't come out until they had the updated it was the Gears of War that came out. That was, I believe, the first game on Unreal 3.
Yeah.
And you had to buy that to get the Unreal development kit. And so, had to buy that, and just kind of got down into it. I was up late nights just learning with a bunch of other students in Montgomery, and so we would share information and all that stuff.
How did you settle on like level design, or how did you settle on like that? Like, how did you end up choosing what you were most interested in creating?
So there was a class called it was Applied Game Design, I believe, and it was taught by Aram Cookson at SCAD, and he taught that class, and that was the first time like I had to like build out a level. Like I had the first assignment was like, build out a level and like block it out and everything. And then it's like, okay, now art it up, put props around, and then now add like a epic door. And so everybody had to like make a door. And so you learn like how to animate it and everything. You're like playing around with all these assets. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I can set up triggers and stuff, so you walk into certain areas and then the door opens and then lights come on and all that stuff. And so that really kind of sparked it. I was just like, this is what I really want to do. And so that really got me into doing level design.
Got you. Going back to kind of now you're in this and now that we kind of understand what your experience was kind of like getting into this field basically, like how was your experience going from what you said before? We understand that you went to the more affluent public school. You spent a lot of your time on it was still public school, but it was obviously we understand the difference. You were spending a lot of time online gaming, right? You were spending a lot of time physically building like tech computers and things like that. And you had your core unit of friends, I'm assuming, and you said you didn't really like go out too much. How was that shift to SCAD now that you're surrounded by, like, who were you surrounded by actually? I know actually, we going to school, there were like very few black people.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I feel like once I got to SCAD, that kind of changed my entire like worldview at the time, because I'd only known Savannah. Like I didn't really travel much, like any of that stuff. It was just kind of you're in Savannah, this is all you know. And as soon as I got to SCAD, because like you said, they focus on international students, so
and somehow living in small little Savannah, being what it is, you didn't end up like an asshole. Somehow you ended up still being a decent human being who can empathize and respect other cultures. Awesome job, Kev. Anyway, continue on with your experience. So now you're immersed in new cultures.
Because like most of the time when I would get into these classes, they would hand out the syllabus, and then they would have everybody go around, introduce yourself. And it was really interesting to me that every time, like, I don't think there might have been one class where I was introducing myself, and then I tell everybody I'm from right here in Savannah, and they're like, "What?" It's like there were so few like Savannah natives in SCAD, or at least in that major.
No,
and it
it's
was
SCAD
wild
overall.
to me. Yeah, and it was just like, wait, you're from here? And I'm like, yeah. That it's weird to me that it's not a majority of people from Savannah in these classes. But yeah, yeah. So where was I? What was I talking about?
No, that's fine. Like, no. I mean, I'll jump in here and just say,
Oh
like,
yeah,
that. Remember what you're thinking. Write it down if you need
yeah.
to. But
Hmm.
I think that speaks a lot to just further reason and proof why there are so few Black people in that industry. So SCAD is not at the time. Like SCAD at the time actually was one of the few colleges that had a really going for it game development major, right?
Hmm.
And thinking about that and understanding that Savannah is, I think it's actually majority Black, especially in that specific area. There's a very large Black community there. I don't know if it's majority, but there's a very, very large Black community there.
Hmm.
KP speaking to the fact that there were so few Black people in general, but there were like very few Savannah natives there, says a lot about why there's so few Black people even in the industry. It's because they didn't even have access to the programs where they could learn this stuff to even be considered an asset. There's a lot here, everyone. Like, there are a lot of levels and different pieces to this puzzle of why this is occurring, right? It's not a simple fix. It's not we're gonna just go out and hire a bunch of Black people to be in this game development company, right? You have to look for the root cause. This is what I do for a living, right? You have to look. The problem isn't I can't find Black people to hire. The problem is much more rooted in we are not supporting Black people to even be considered, right? And that's only one root cause. I just kind of wanted to stop on that for like 1 second and just express it, because this is going to come up a couple times, but like I don't think people realize KP is an anomaly. He's an exception to the rule, right? And it doesn't get past him either. So
it's like it becomes really apparent, especially when I come back, when I visit Savannah. Usually what I like to do is go back to my old high school, and I like to go and speak to the kids there. So like to tell them, what I do, and just to kind of let them know that this is like an actual job that you could do. Like this is, I get paid real money to work on games, and it's, I don't know, I think there's just something about especially seeing, if I would have had somebody come into the room when I was in high school and say like, I'm a game developer, and this is a real job that you can do, but not only that, but someone that looked like me.
Yeah. You can say Black. It's okay.
Yeah. No, it's just like, it's just like, and so I want to be that for somebody else potentially. So I, try and go back, and it's so weird because I remember years ago, I went to talk to, this was actually while I was still at SCAD, because I went to go do some photo ref for some textures, and I went to Beach High School, and I went to go talk to them. That was because I wanted to I was doing an environment on a school, and so I wanted to go take some photo ref to get some textures and all that stuff. And so I asked them if I could take pictures around the campus, and they were like, I don't know why you want to do that, but like if you're gonna do that, you have to talk to the kids and everything. So
just so you all know, Beach is one of the rougher schools in Savannah.
And so, I ended up going in there, talking to the kids, and they had no idea that SCAD was even a thing. Yeah. And it's weird.
That's the reason why I said what I said, by the way.
Their high school was literally down the street from like some of the buildings that were on campus. So
also, so people understand, like SCAD is spread out in Savannah. Like their buildings are like peppered around the city. So it's actually hard not to bump into SCAD if you're in like downtown. Savannah. Well, it's called downtown. Where was that? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah.
So you were
yeah.
you were kind of like talking about it.
Yeah, it was just really weird to me that like they had no knowledge of this school, even though it's right down the street.
Yeah.
And so not only that, but like, yeah, just kind of informing them that, yeah, the school's right down the street. And then also you can like do this. You can go to school to like learn how to make games. Like if you're into that. Yeah. And yeah, it was just,
well, I think
it was like their heads exploded. Like they were just like, wait, what?
I think the one thing, and like this isn't me, maybe you're just not aware, but the one thing I would say that the disconnect maybe there between you and them and the whole situation is you can tell them this, Kev. Like you can go and you can tell them like these things, but that doesn't mean they have access to it, right? So it's the situation of I'm glad that we're doing this and we're providing this platform to kind of start these conversations, because I think it's admirable that you're trying and you're working on ways to give back to the community, but it's not going to be as simple as you just going and talking about the
right.
Because again, I think it comes back to you had the opportunity and your parents worked in a certain way and they had a certain mindset. We're talking about mindsets here too. Like I guarantee some of those kids at Beach, their parents are not even they might not even considering their kids going to college. Mm-hmm. Right. And this is, we get into systemic stuff, we get into redlining, we get into gentrification. There's there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. You know, I learned today what is it? Savannah South High School? What is it called? South Savannah High School? I don't remember what it is, but where the new performing arts school is in Savannah used to be a public school, and they kept defunding it to the point where they're like, oh, we got to close it down. And then you had affluent whites that came in, bought it, turned it into a performing arts school, and now it's one of the leading schools. But it is now surrounded by affluent white families with massive houses and things like that. We're talking about pushing Black bodies out of their space. So yes, what Kevin's talking about is I've been given this opportunity. I see the need. I'm going back and I'm trying to expose these kids to this, but it will require more from us, right? To get people to recognize there's change here that needs to be involved in investing in what futures you want. So if you're an organization and you believe in DEI, you believe in equity, right? It's not good enough for you to say, okay, well, I'm going to try to hire more diverse staff. It's actually more important for you to say, I'm going to invest. Well, it's both, honestly, but I'm going to invest in creating a pipeline that allows me to get the best talent possible and the most diverse talent. Right. So Kevin can go back now, having been backed by his company, and say, hey, we're offering a scholarship to a few students. I want you guys to do this challenge. We're going to provide a scholarship so that you can go to SCAD. That is allyship. That is what allyship could look like. That is one of millions of ways that it could look like. But that's the expectation that we're having here, right? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
But yeah, no, so obviously you were in SCAD now. You were let's go ahead and jump, right? So you've gone through this program. If there's anything that happened in the program specifically around like equity or some things that you had to navigate in regards to that, I'd be happy to hear it. But I'm really curious about how we kind of got through that program, right? Yeah.
Actually that kind of can segue into me getting an internship. It was 2009. And we're putting together our portfolios and everything. I've been working in Unreal. I have a couple of little things under my belt. And so now we're learning how to, put our resume together, all of that stuff. And so we start applying to places. I remember applying to this place called Kids Toys. And it was it was something else. I actually got an art test back because the position was for a texture painter. I got an art test back, and I remember I got the art test, and I showed it to my teacher. I was just like, this can't be right. So I opened up the file, and so some of the 3D assets like had flipped normals, and what that is basically a 3D model has faces, and if the normals aren't correct, the lighting is going to show up weird, all that stuff. So I had flipped normals that I couldn't change because they were locked. There was just a lot of stuff messed up with the scene. And so I was like, this can't be right. And so I showed it to my teacher, and he was like, yeah, I guess like email him back. And so like I sent an email back, and I was like, hey, I think the file got corrupted. Could you resend it? And the guy that sent it, he was like, aha, he was like, that was part of the test. And so I'm just like, oh no. Just because like it's supposed to be for like texture painting, but like I had to go in like as a modeler and like fix some of this stuff. So when you're 3D modeling, if you're a texture painter, all you do is paint on what they used to call texture atlases. So you would take let's say if you had a box that you wanted to texture, you would have to unfold it. So think like a globe. And you see that map, right? Like lay it flat, and then you would paint on it. And so that's what you would wrap around the model. And so I basically had to like remodel some of this stuff, and then also UV it, which is laying out that atlas, and then paint on it. And it was an entire scene, and I got 2 weeks to work on it. And so, I just went to work. I was working a lot of late nights in Montgomery Hall. And then, I get the test done, and all the while, I have my classmates and everything. They're with me. Like they see what I had to do to get through that, just so they know what to do on their tests if they get one. And so I send it in, and I get accepted for the internship. I'm like, sweet. My friend Josh also got this test, and he had seen what I had done because I was the first one to get the test, and so we were in the same class, and I was like, hey, so he knows how to, like, we all know how to fix it, but it's just like, all right, cool, just boom, I'm gonna get this done. He got it done like super quick, and he sends it in, and they offer him a job. Oh,
wow.
So his first day on the job was my first day as the intern. We had the same test. It was. I felt some kind of way about it. But
I can see how that could stay.
So I ended up, doing an internship. The internship was fine. Like I learned a lot in that internship. And then I came back. I had to pretty much skip a quarter to take this internship. But I figured, actually having like
absolutely
in pipeline experience would be good for my portfolio. So I did that, came back, and then took my last quarter of classes, and then and graduated. And so I started applying to every single studio that was under the sun. Like it was like I was sending out probably like 25 applications a week or something like that, at least. There was this thing called Game Dev Map, and it's probably still up, but I would just go there, click on like a city, and then like go down the list. Like, okay, I want to apply here, and like I was just like hitting everybody up, and that whole time I was like working on my portfolio. Fast forward to graduation. My friend Kate, she had gotten a job. Actually, not graduation. I had already graduated. I was working part-time and then working on my portfolio. Or actually, no, working full-time and then working on my portfolio at night.
Right.
Because I had to pay rent and all that stuff. But basically I was working at this time. I was working at the Census Bureau, and I remember
One second. Sorry. So why were you Why were you paying rent? Why weren't you just living with your family?
Because I was dumb and like I was just like, oh, I'm moving out.
It was your decision.
I wanted my, like I
freedom.
I wanted my freedom. I wanted to be able to live outside the house and everything.
Were your parents able to? Did your parents want to help, or were they able to help, or how was that relationship? Just out of curiosity.
It was. I mean, because I was working, like it was fine. I'm sure they would have helped had I asked for it, but you know, I'm very bullheaded. So I'm like, I'm independent. I'm gonna make it on my own. Like I don't need help. I don't need to ask for help.
Gotcha. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, good.
Yeah. So yeah, I was working at the time, and then working on my portfolio, and then the next year. So this is
a year after grad.
Yeah. So graduating class, and Kate, she had gotten a job at High Res Studios, and so I got invited to some graduation party, and we met up, and she told me, she was like, yeah, so I think my company's still looking for more like designers, so like you should apply. I'm like, okay, cool. I get my portfolio together, send it out, and then I got hit up within like a week, and I was just like, oh, this is it. Like I remember like when I got the phone call, I like jumped up like after like I was like pacing around. I was just like, oh, like this is it. Like they sent me an email. They were like, yeah, we want you to come on for an on-site interview. And I was just like, oh, I gotta get this. Like I have to. And so that I ended up going to the on-site and interviewing, and they pretty much gave me the job in the next day or the day after. It was really quick though, and I was just like, that's my end. I was like, I this is what I'm doing. I will never not be doing video games from here on out. Like they messed up and they let me in the door. So that was like the beginning of my game development career. I came on as a level designer, and we were working on Global Agenda.
Very, very, very cool.
So
Speaking of, I'm gonna play this little video. So way back in the day when KP was like pretty early in high res, I had moved to Atlanta with my wife at that point, or my fiance, let's say, and I was looking for work, and I've always been interested in the game industry, but obviously I had a different track, so I was trying to find ways in. So I put together because I had a background in photography and videography and things. I put together a promotional video of like behind the scenes at high res, and I used KP as my guinea pig. He was a great guinea pig, by the way. And I put together this video. I've skipped the first part of it to just jump into the meat, but I'm gonna play it right over. I'll turn off the music first. Over here.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Good Lucky Charms. Anyway, I'll play it.
There was a news story on WSAV. They mentioned the whole like game development program that was starting up at SCAD. I really didn't know that you could take game development courses as something in college. Like I didn't know that was a major you could do. And my mom was like, hey, come look at this, because she was like, you play video games all the time, maybe you want to do this. And she was totally joking, because it's like, yeah, Savannah College of Art and Design is not cheap to go to. And I was just like, well, that's it. Like that's that's what I'm doing. That was the only college I applied to. I didn't know anything about art. So it's pretty funny. It's like somebody that didn't do really that much art. try to transition into doing art professionally. We had been under the assumption that there were just a plethora of jobs out there. That just turned out not to be the case, or we were just all bad. I don't know. But
so
of course,
green.
it's like you want to apply to all these like big name studios that you hear, like Blizzard and Valve. I didn't even know there were game development studios in Atlanta. I actually started playing Global Agenda, which was the first game that came out of the studio, all while I was working on my portfolio, because I wanted to get everything that I had actually worked on during school out of my portfolios. One of my former classmates, she had just gotten hired here. They actually brought me in for an interview. So I was like, I got real excited, and they ended up giving me a job offer.
The face I need to make
a couple
sure
of days later, pretty much like the first day I got in here. Oh no, I'm a fraud. Like, I don't know anything. It's like, oh, bad. But it's really cool because there's so many people here that are so talented. Everybody just helps each other out. I don't really consider them coworkers or friends. You know, we hang out outside of work and everything. It's cool seeing the team grow. It's just a really cool environment to be a part of. John, he's an animator. He introduced me to the whole like rock climbing thing. We also play basketball after work. We play Magic the Gathering. We also have a fight night. We play fighting games. There's this guy, Carrie. He thinks he's like really good at fighting games, but he's really like the worst. When I initially came on, I was a level designer, and I worked on Global Agenda, and I also worked on Tribes Ascend. And so after Tribes shipped, then I went on to Smite. There wasn't that much level design work to be done, so started planting little bugs in people's ear about me switching over to doing 3D work.
It's been a lot of time on that.
I don't think that happens. I get hired for one thing. I can't just be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to do what I want to do. But they let me sort of transition over to doing 3D art. I'm actually pretty happy with where it's going. I'm learning a lot. Hi-Res as a company is definitely growing up. Once we moved on to Tribes, there was just so much stuff we learned from that. Now it's Smite. People are starting to take notice, I think. You like to see stuff that you're very invested in flourish and get better. The stuff I'm working on right now, I'm doing a wall piece for the new arena environment. We've been overhauling the maps. Basically, we started with Conquest, and we moved on to
I remember playing
K-Ram, or all random, all mid. I think it looks pretty cool. It's funny because previously I've been doing a lot of barrels and rocks, so it's cool to get something a little more important in the environment, even though those things are important. If you don't see them, you'll notice, but once they're there, you're just like, oh, whatever, and pretty much what's coming up next is arena hotness. It's been a really awesome ride so far, and I hope to, be with Hi-Res for a long time.
You were
definitely see
for a good amount of time. Man.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
5 years.
Is like long time. It's like 2 years.
I was with them for 5 years.
Yeah, that's a decent amount of work. So, yeah, I mean that was.
Yeah.
So
like that.
One thing I wanted to ask was like,
mm-hmm.
looking at that now and thinking about like, what you went through working at the company and like the friendships you made and the fun you had, and you said like it feels like a family and yada yada yada. What are some things that didn't feel good, or what were some things that?
Oh boy!
I mean, like where? I mean, I'm sure you have a idea of like where to start, but I think as opposed to just being like, did you have to deal with racism? It's like more like you came in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed as a person, who loved games and was really interested in the industry. I mean, you're working in the industry, right? When did you learn, or did you learn that you were different?
Oh, it was pretty damn quick. Especially like, when you have like the company photo and stuff like that, and it's only like 2 or 3 black people in the photo, maybe, depending on the size of the studio.
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, kind of immediately, aside from that, just kind of dealing with random, little microaggressions here and there. And it's stuff that I feel like, it doesn't get called out because, there's not a whole lot of black people there. So it's just like, and so, yeah, just having to deal with that.
I guess a good question to that is, so, you know, we all deal with that kind of situation, being a minority in a predominantly white space.
Mm-hmm.
This is a complicated question, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like you're generally not an angry person? I know that just from knowing you, right? You're generally not like, you'll call bullshit when you see it, if it's heavy enough. But I'm just wondering, like, did you ever feel like you were white adjacent? Did you ever feel like you were just token and you were like, this is like, I'm dealing with microaggressions, like, haha, that was funny. Like, was that how you were kind of negotiating your trauma?
Yeah, it was really weird because you're trying to navigate this whole, like, you're trying to navigate like office politics, and you're trying to navigate, just being on a dev team in general, communication, all that stuff, and the hierarchy that comes with that, your title, and you know, it differs from studio to studio. But yeah, I didn't feel like, especially that early in my career, I was not really in the room until like almost before I left. So it was just kind of like I didn't really have. So
you felt a little undervalued and unseen.
Is
that okay to say? Is that
definitely undervalued, and so it's just like, okay, I want to do these things. I feel like what I'm working on right now, like I feel like I could do more, or like, I'd like to have that responsibility.
And honestly, this isn't, this can be seen as kind of hard to say, because I mean, I know you still have friends that work there and you still have relationships there and stuff like that, but this is systemic. It's not this one company. Like when we're talking about this, it's not like, oh, this company is bad. It's across the board, systemic within the industry. So it's no one's necessarily doing it well or right. And it's across industry. Like we talk about Black in tech in general is very lacking in a Black voice. Game design is a subset of that. It's even less than, I think even personally in my work, one of the most frustrating things is it's not the people you work with all the time. Like obviously there's microaggressions, right? People just don't know how to, but how did you feel about how the as the company saw you? Because I know for me, like, we're 4 days into Black History Month and no one said anything. And I'm sitting here like, do I need to make a post like, hey, we're 4 days in and I'm still waiting for something, some kind of recognition of the fact that it's Black History Month, and no one felt it necessary to, you get it. Talk to me.
To protect the innocent, I won't mention any names, but I'll just mention,
I think that's appropriate.
So I remember, I think one of the things that caused me to kind of question like my worth and where I was at the time, was so I had finally got the shot that I wanted at being a character designer. And I was designing out these characters and everything, and that was like a big thing for me, because it's like, okay, like your design,
that's huge.
Like your design is like at the front, like people are like actively playing with these characters.
They're gonna love it, they're gonna hate it.
And everything that comes with that. And I remember I had gotten my first character, and we go in, because you go in with all the other like leads from the different disciplines, and you're saying like, okay, this is the design, this is what I want to do. You're basically pitching the design. And I just remember, so they would bring in like streamers, and they had actually hired one, and so they brought him in on the, I didn't mean to identify. Okay, they brought them in.
It's hard. I mean,
they brought them in.
Yeah, there's like, obviously women is a whole other conversation too. There's certainly a lack of them.
That too.
Yeah, but sorry, go ahead.
So they brought him in, and so I don't have any problems with feedback on designs, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I noticed that any sort of ideas that would get brought up, they would constantly choose this person's designs over mine.
So the white counter.
Yeah. And so it was really odd to me that, like, okay, I went to school for this. I spent so much time doing this, and then this person can come in not having like the experience or the background that I had, and basically like just take my job. And so I felt weird about it, because it's like, because it's like, I would like put out a design, and then it's just like, oh no, we should just do this instead. And it was just like, more often than not, like the ability is getting changed. And so I'm just like, okay. And like as soon as like the point where it got to where like the last character I worked on, the entire kit got changed. And I was just like, well, what do I do now? Like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah, this doesn't feel good. And that kind of made me reevaluate, like, okay, what's my worth? Like, what do I want? Where do I want to go from here? And that's when I started, looking to leave that position and go to the next studio.
Yeah, and like this, it's a hard conversation, because it's easy enough to say like, well, it might have had nothing to do with race, right? And
right.
It might not have anything to do with what KP looks like or anything like that. I think the difficulty for a lot of people when it comes to that kind of conversation is there's a lot of depth occurring within that. Like, so KP's not just dealing with his ideas being tabled or his ideas being straight up changed, right? So it's not even that they're saying, oh, we're going to go with a different character. It's, we're going to take what you've started and we're going to completely change it to what someone else thinks is a better idea. You have to remember, like, he's also dealing with microaggressions and being significantly different from anybody. Like, there's a weight there that he's carrying with him daily as these other things are happening, right? So if he's the only one in the room that looks like him, that has his background, that has his perspective, and he's building these things out, and he's not really part of the discussion per se in how these changes are being made, right? It's difficult for, like, me, coming from my background, it's difficult for me to not recognize, okay, I understand there's different levels of frustration that are occurring here. It's not just that they're changing what I'm putting on the table. It's also the fact that no one else in this room looks like me. No one else in this room, I feel like, has my back. I am getting inundated with microaggressions, and I'm having to shoulder that without popping off, right? Without exploding, right? And that leads to I can't remember what the opposite of retention is. This is a problem in the industry. Like, okay, great, you're hiring diverse people. How are you keeping them? Right. So KP is a great example of this. If you want to keep a diverse group of people, you have to find ways, and this is where I come back to, you have to celebrate the fact that it's Black History Month and give them safe space to express and bring their whole selves to work. And KP didn't feel like he could bring his whole self to work, dealing with the microaggressions, dealing with seeing only himself kind of in those rooms and all of those different pieces of that puzzle. So yes, maybe it wasn't racially specific. I'm not saying it was technically. I think it was an amalgamation of a lot of things that they weren't, that the leadership wasn't paying attention to, that was causing KP harm. And I think that's what people kind of have to wrap their heads around. It's like, you were causing this person harm unknowingly. And that's the difference between being not racist and anti-racist, right? You have to work hard and make sacrifices to be anti-racist. So KP said, okay, I'm not getting what I need. What are my other options? So what did you end up doing?
Yeah. So I ended up going to Gearbox. Ended up
Nice.
working at Gearbox Software.
I remember that happening. I was like, oh, like I mean, it's kind of a big deal.
Because I, huge fan of Borderlands, and so I was like, this is like my dream job. I want to be able to make a Vault Hunter. I want to do that. And so yeah, I got hired on as a character designer and worked on Battleborn.
Nice.
And yeah, that was probably one of the most fun projects I ever worked on. RIP to Battleborn. They just took the servers offline. Last week?
Yep.
Or earlier this week? Yeah, like it was this past weekend or something. But yeah. It was a fun game to work on. It's unfortunate what happened with Overwatch.
I mean, the game industry itself is pretty toxic.
Yeah, and you can't always work on super successful games, right? So, yeah. But yeah, then ended up working on Borderlands 3. So, and that was a really interesting journey, because basically I didn't get to do what I had been hired to do. I came in as a character designer, but once I got moved to that project, that wasn't available. Yep. Yeah, it wasn't available to me. So I ended up getting moved over to work on like NPCs. At the time, there was really no support for NPCs. We were switching over to Unreal 4. And I was just trying to figure out, like, all right, I had never worked on NPCs or like AI, like behavior trees or any of that stuff. I mean, I always like a challenge, but like this was so far out of like what I had done. And I was just like, foolishly like took it on. And then I was just like,
I'm assuming,
closer
to coding.
It's really just like you have to.
Oh, I understand what the tree.
Yeah.
Like, so if this happens, this that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Cool. You just have to have the trees and so for me, especially going from like character design over to that and like having it. Well, yeah, and it's just like I had never worked on like NPCs before, so I was just like winging it, and I was just like, well, I can't do this. So I went to the creative director, and told him that I would be doing a disservice to the project if they were to keep me on that, because it's just like I really wanted to work on character on character design. I wanted to work on characters, but. So that's how I ended
a very scary time for you.
Oh yeah, it was really.
I mean, you
really
just
bad
moved
time for me.
To Austin.
To Dallas.
Dallas.
Yeah.
And to Gearbox, and I mean it could have been a year or two. I don't even know how long it was, but it wasn't that long of a period of time.
Yeah.
And now you were kind of in limbo. Yeah.
It was kind of like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected. When you're like, oh man, it's a dream project. Like, it's not like I saw myself working on characters, right? But that's how I got into systems design, and so I'm really, really happy that happened, because like that allowed me to grow even more. As a designer. And so I learned a lot, just, kind of how systems are built out and like managing and kind of like making tools for other disciplines and stuff like that, at least on the blueprint side. And just like, creating content, or at least making it easier to create content. So
did you typically feel like another tough question, but did you typically feel like you were like perceived as one of the good ones?
No,
because it seems like you've had a lot of interesting opportunity. Like you've been given a lot of interesting opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And there are caveats to that. Like I navigate space very well because I present myself. I can present myself I can present myself as non-threatening. I don't walk in and I'm like, Black Power, like, Malcolm X, and I don't present myself that way because honestly it scares white people. And you are very the word man, can't think of the word, but you can navigate that space very well. I was just wondering if you ever kind of got that vibe from anybody in regards to like, obviously nobody's gonna say it, but
right.
I mean, if you haven't, you haven't. I just was curious.
I just think I've been like fortunate, and I kind of approach it in a tactical way, because I have to really think about how I approach things, considering that, I might.
So you do cognitively check yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, Kev. Like that.
Yeah.
That is.
I mean.
This is the thing, like sometimes this is therapy, right? So, but like, I'm just trying to pay attention to you. You present as a dark-skinned black man. You're a pretty big guy,
mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, we think about, stereotypes and all that kinds of things, right? You can easily present yourself in a certain way. And I've done that before. Like I did it in my project, right? This is the picture that I took of KP in college to present to an audience. This is how he is perceived when he moves around space. There's another picture I took as well where it presents him praying, and that was closer to who he really was, right? So I'm just kind of like navigating that idea around the fact that you do have to cognitively check yourself, and that's a problem. I'm not saying you should stop. I'm not saying it's your responsibility to stop. I'm saying
it's just I like to be aware. And I read the room, and I just make sure that I position myself because no one else is really going to be looking out for you.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. And yeah,
Did you feel that way? Did you feel that way at Gearbox?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving from Hi-Rez to Gearbox really wasn't a shift in like relationship dynamic for you, in the sense of like perceiving yourself a different way or perceiving more people like you, or
right. Yeah.
So it was very similar.
Yeah, I mean, Gearbox is a much larger company.
Right.
Well, I mean, now they're almost the same. I know Hi-Rez has been blowing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of the same as just like, only a handful of black people, and all in different disciplines and stuff like that. And so we would see each other in the hall, give the nod, all that stuff.
Ironically, both of those cities are have a lot of black people in them.
Mm-hmm.
Hi-Rez is in Atlanta. There's like one of the biggest HBCUs there, Morehouse, and what's the women's college? Morehouse, Spelman. Yeah. Morehouse and Spelman. By the way, Savannah State's also an HBCU.
Yeah.
And then Dallas has a large population. So just kind of pointing that out as well. But anyway, so you moved over to Gearbox, and you're still checking yourself as a black man.
Yeah.
You're still paying attention to those dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But you're working in, you've been afforded the opportunity to kind of do some of the things you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
How did it really feel working there?
It was like I felt good about what I was doing. But yeah, I definitely noticed that you get afforded certain things based on just kind of where you're at within the hierarchy.
Gotcha.
And I feel like that's kind of what it is for a lot of studios, but it's weird.
I mean, the difficulty there is people generally will. It's almost like nepotism. Nepotism is more specific to like family. but it's almost
Yeah.
like nepotism in the sense of people have a tendency to promote and friend people that look like them and act like them and behave like them.
Yeah.
And you have to take on this caricature in a lot of situations to be perceived as but a buddy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's studies out now talking about this whole, hiring practice of, are you somebody I would want to go out to the bar with, right? That you shouldn't have to want to hang out with somebody at the bar for you guys to do good work together. Right?
Exactly.
It's just like a cognitive rift there. Right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be like, this just doesn't function that well. And there's a lot of study around that, right? So in the same vein, like you're kind of dealing with that. But go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna mention, like, it's kind of the dated mindset, of the industry. Like that's changing, but I feel like a lot of people feel that way, and it's just like there's a better way to say it. Like, if like I should be comfortable with communicating with you. Is the thing.
Thank you. That is a perfect way of putting it, because I've found in my work, discourse is one of the most important factors for innovation. Right? I shouldn't want KP, Savannah native, Black man, to have the same perspective as me, because then we'll just create the same thing. Whereas if you come to me with a different perspective, I'll have to think about what I'm thinking about and maybe adjust that to something that's better. That discourse is really important.
Yeah, I feel like that's how you make the best games as well. Like it's the mutual respect, and then also the ease of communication. Because if I have a problem with some content or something like that, if it's somebody that I'm just like, oh, I never talked to them, or whatever, I might be more apprehensive on like actually messaging them, and vice versa. So like removing that barrier, I feel like you get the best things. And so when you're actively talking and you're having like a brainstorm session or something like that, you're getting excited. I feel like that's where a lot of the really good ideas are born. And then, when you can follow through on it, you just end up creating a much better product. But it's wild to me that there's still these weird like office dynamics and power plays and stuff where people are stonewalling ideas because it wasn't theirs and because they don't like this person. And so it's just it's really weird to me. But like I just like to sit back and observe. I try to be very observant because like I need to do what I need to do to make sure like I'm protected, right? And so it's just a lot
there's another thing to add. Like you have systemic racism, you have microaggressions you're dealing with, and then you're literally having to double think, because you can't just think of an idea. You also have to think about whether or not this is the right time to deliver that idea, or is this an idea that will cause me harm if I try to deliver it and then they push back. Like you're literally thinking in levels.
You have to incept some people to like get when you have to incept someone to get an idea greenlit or something like that, that's something else.
I would
but
imagine that's
like
aggravating.
So
how was it? So once you started moving through the more system oriented work, you found like this groove, what kind of set you into the next phase?
It was a couple of things. I just kind of felt lost a little bit just because like that wasn't the path that I was on. And so, this path was very different. And so trying to figure out like, okay, where does this path lead? And I didn't really know, just because like I had been doing like character design for, years, and then you get thrown into this, even though it's not super different. It's like, your job, your day to day is very different. Like working on systems and stuff like that. You have to worry about a lot more than just like the thing you're working on. I had to kind of think about like, okay, where do I go from here? And especially not being super happy at the time, just because like I had pitched a game, it went through all the channels, there was excitement for it, that died down somehow, and it ended up getting shelved. Mm-hmm. And so, I might have been a little salty about that too, but but also like I just felt like I just didn't feel like I had a path upward there. Mm-hmm. And that I kind of confirmed that through having some meetings and before I left, but at the time I had already gotten an offer from Airship Syndicate. Okay. So I was just like, okay, pretty much just ask a simple question like, hey, just want to catch up, but also like I've asked about wanting to move up and do more, take on more. Have you guys considered me for like these other projects? And when I was met with like, nah, not really. Like, we got mm-hmm. these other people that are up. And some of them that had started like, a year ago or mm-hmm. a year and a half ago. And I'm mm-hmm. just like, but yeah, it just, when you don't see a progression path at that company, that's probably when you should leave. Like if you don't see something there for you, you should probably go somewhere where you can see yourself, excelling and moving upward.
Yeah, it definitely sounds
forward like at least.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, those are retention issues. I'm actually looking forward to bringing up a conversation with my wife about coming on the stream and talking about, if she's willing, and talking about like what hiring practices look like, what human capital management could look like for the game development company. She's a Black woman. She's dealt with some serious shit in just poor retention, poor acclamation, poor support for Black community members. Again, this is a situation where the argument can be made this has nothing to do with race, about why Kevin made the shift and things along those lines. But it doesn't change the fact that if a company wants to retain a diverse workforce, they're going to have to step up and step beyond the simple performative acts of showing care for that community, right? So in the case of Kevin with Gearbox, it was really about providing him the necessary understanding and career path to get him to where he wants to go so they could retain him. But I guess they just didn't care enough, which is the company's choice, right?
It
but this is us questioning. This is us as a platform saying you're losing a passionate, experienced, skilled, talented, intelligent. I'll lay it on. Intelligent individual, because why? Right? Because he doesn't have all the friends you have, because he doesn't look like you. These are questions we have to ask. I mean, so yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But I mean, the best thing you can do is take care of yourself. So, right. Because at the end of the day, these companies don't care about you to some degree, right? Yeah. They're there because they're trying to make money and do the things that they like to do, which comes back to us talking about Black people have stories to tell. We need to be starting our own companies, to get those stories off the ground and build those systems and all those things. But in the meantime, at the very least, the industry could do its part to build up the talent and the skill sets of these individuals so that when they do make the leap, they have the support they need. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's the next topic. Maybe that's another I don't know what the next topic is going to be right now, but I do have to plan something for next week. So you decided to leave. You took the position at Airship Syndicate. What's going on now? Where are you at?
I'm working. I'm working on cool stuff.
You made this shift after the pandemic, right?
Yes, it was pretty much like at the beginning.
Right. So you haven't even been in the office.
Nope.
Yep.
Haven't been in the office. I mean, I went to go. I went to go pick up some swag.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that they had dropped by the office. But aside from that, no. Like, haven't really met any of my coworkers in person.
Hard question, but like, how do you feel as a black man working at Airship and Syndicate? Is it normal? Is it the same as every other time? Just like, obviously we're not face to face anymore, so it's but
it's actually like I feel really good working here. It's like it's been like a really like a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm. Do they know
like
you're black?
Yeah, God damn. Absolutely. Like
I mean in like the literal sense. Like, do they know you are a black man? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, like, you know, we have our video calls and all that stuff. And so like I've seen everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's seen me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like we haven't like interacted in person before. And so yeah, that's been since like April of last year.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's coming up on a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just like so sad. Like because I honestly miss like some of the stuff in the office where it's like, okay, I can bounce ideas off of people.
Choice.
Yeah. And so it's just been really interesting.
Work in the office sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it what's the name? But you just randomly bumping into people creates positive interactions that can generate interesting ideas. And you have to be in proximity with people to do that, right? So we've lost that ability right now. So I'm excited to hear more about, you know, your work at Airship and how that experience has been. I hope you are able to continue able to bring your whole self to work. And I'm hoping these conversations may spark conversations there that will keep them in line with the things that are important to you, and provide you a way to not just have a safe space, but also for them to engage you where you should be engaged.
Yeah, I'll say this. The experience has been like this is what I've been wanting my entire time within game development.
It's a smaller company.
Yeah, it's a smaller company. But yeah, just the trust and the responsibility and the communication. It's all there. And like I'm just like, oh, this is how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like I'm just still amazed. Like even despite like us working from home and everything, there's that trust. The communication is there. Like, and so I can only imagine like once we get back in the office eventually, you know, how that's gonna be. But yeah, like it's insane just how much happier I am, and just like I feel like I can like actually be myself and, you know, put forward those ideas and not worry about them getting stonewalled or anything like that. Yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah, and like, so I don't know if you know this, but we've been talking for 2 hours. But
oh wow,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild, right? I mean, really, 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 and I knew it would be. It's an amazing story. I think, you know, one of the things I'm actually interested in is you're working with a company to kind of provide a education track for young adults or high school kids.
It's elementary through high school.
Oh, elementary through high school. Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So has your work provided you this opportunity, or did you figure this out on your own, or are they allowing you to kind of do this as a like how does that relate?
I actually got approached by the company. It's Elite Gaming Live, EGL. Yeah, it's the EGL, and they basically are an esports organization that works with kids. So they create they have this whole platform for creating tournaments and everything, but the other half of that is STEM education.
Okay.
And so there's this whole like back and forth between them like gaining points and stuff in their league. And then I can't say too much, but
that's fine. No, that's fine. No, that's fine. Like that's
but
honestly,
yeah,
that's enough.
they take these classes and they gain points and stuff like that. And so I was approached by the CEO because actually someone I met at Gearbox, their wife, she is also a level designer. I think she works at Ravensoft, but I remember meeting her one time, and then I guess she got involved with this organization, and she recommended me as one of the teachers for like the design track. So that's how I got involved, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now for that.
So does your organization, does Airship Syndicate know that you're doing this?
No.
Oh, okay. So this is like this is it's a complete side project. That
it's a complete side thing.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I'd like to see happen, and I'm speaking to the frustrating thing is it really shouldn't be your responsibility, right? But I'd love to see people like you that are really passionate about engaging a younger generation, people that wouldn't often have the opportunity to do the things that you were able to do, right? Just literally providing the support that like giving them broken up computers that they can like whatever it is that can provide them an outlet that you were given when you were young, right? It would be great if companies like Gearbox or Hi-Rez or Airship Syndicate or wherever, if they started asking questions of their employees like you, like, hey, there's not a lot of you here, like just recognizing it, right? Like, hey, we don't have a lot of Black people that work at this company. We don't have a lot of Black people that apply to this company. We don't see a lot of applicants, basically what I just said. Why is that, and how do we change it? Right? That is a question that should be on every game developer's mind. And the frustrating part is no one will say it unless they look like you. And it's tiresome. Like I said, 4 days into Black History Month, and I'm pretty much sure I'm going to have to be the one that says, hey, happy Black History Month. Like, I hope you all are learning something. Not to end on a bad note, I cannot express enough how absolutely happy I was with this conversation. I mean, awesome learning more about you, Kev, kind of where you came from, what you're doing now, what you're interested in. I would really impress upon anybody that's watching or interested in the game development world or the gaming industry. Definitely reach out to us. By all means, inbox me on Twitter. You can email me at theeqg@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on the video, anything along those lines, where I will definitely respond. We're always looking for ways to collaborate as well. If there's anybody that's interested in maybe starting a program or figuring out what it would look like, we can definitely have those conversations. And I'd love to invite some people on that maybe have had very different experiences than KP has getting to where they are, and how that worked or how it didn't work or what transitions they made. So yeah, I mean, like I said, great talk, Kev. Really appreciate it.
Had fun.
Yeah. I hope you did. It was certainly a lot to talk about. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for, sticking with us and listening to this very, very long conversation. There's a lot there. I mean, I think we're going to end up pulling a couple different topics just out of that story that you kind of brought up to dig down into. Yes, I let the main out today. I never let it down since like the pandemic, so I figured, heck, man, let me show this main off. But yeah, no, thank you all for so much for joining us. I hope to see you next time. I'm going to be putting together a couple different short videos to post on YouTube. One about the Twitch's launch of Black History Month. Literally the day we had that conversation, they pushed out that they were going to be promoting Black content creators. I think I still have an ask of them. I don't think it's enough. And at the end of the day, I hope they keep that same energy.
Yeah,
is the vernacular we use. But yeah, no, I'm gonna be putting out some content just to keep us kind of in the loop of what's going on. I'll formalize some topics for next week, and maybe we'll get some other people on. So let's see. Oh man, my company I'm with currently had speaker for Black History Month. Really great. Oh, awesome. I'd be certainly curious to learn a little bit more about what they talked about, well, at least what the subject was. I don't need, you don't have to like give me a transcription, but synopsis would be great. Leave a comment on what that was. But yeah, that's it. That's it for tonight. I just realized like I had never turned the music back on.
Oops.
I guess, well, I mean, the conversation was great. Hopefully that was enough to kind of get us from A to B.
Yeah.
But we're anything else you wanted to say, Kev?
No, I just appreciate everybody that's watching, and yeah, tune in next week for whatever the hell we're going to talk about.
Yeah, whatever it is, and maybe we'll get some gaming in at some point. I don't know yet. I'm honestly, so everybody understands, like we will be streaming some games on here. I'm really just focusing my energy on Outriders. As a dad of twin 21-month-year-olds, I don't have a lot of time. So obviously planning for these talks takes up a lot of energy. Getting my topics together takes a lot of time. I'm looking forward to Outriders coming out, just as something to dig into. KP and I will probably be playing a couple times a night, or a couple times a week. But I know he's busy too, so we'll plan that. It'll be these times, but we'll also have topics to discuss and things. So really looking forward to all of those and spending some more time with you all. So have a great night.
Yeah.
Take care. Take it easy, Kev. We'll chat. And again, stay conscious, people. Thank you. Peace.
All right. Later.